If you're watching this on video, hopefully the audio is better. It's slightly larger than I anticipated, which I don't usually complain about, but it is quite visible in the video, so apologies for that. I've got Anda here today, who's a very good friend, and she is actually the photographer who takes photos of me. So if you've seen some lovely photos of both food and myself, walking and dancing around a sports bra. That was Anda's wonderful work to make me feel less awkward on camera and capture some of the things I do in daily life. So the reason I've got Anda on today is because we had a midwinter Christmas at the weekend, and she is around me a lot. We hang out a lot, and I don't think she'll mind me saying drink quite a lot of wine together. And we started talking about the cultural differences between Anda, who is from Latvia, and her journey through living in the UK and then New Zealand. And it's quite fascinating. So we'll start off, before I waffle on too much more, with a starter on Anda.
Hello. So I'm originally from Latvia, and I'm now a photographer. Do I look at you or do I look at there?
You can look wherever you like.
Cool.
Look at me.
Okay. So I'm a photographer. I take photos, and other people as well. So actually I lived not only in UK for a while, but across Europe and Italy. So it's just been really interesting when it comes to food and fitness and like lifestyle and seeing different people. But anyway, there's not much to say more about that.
I will say that if anyone wants to look up Anda, her wonderful brand is Brand Stories. So check that out. But we will dive straight in to Anda's childhood compared to a Kiwi or British childhood, which made me laugh so much the other day. Because, so what were you telling me about? So you had Cocoa Pops for breakfast?
Of course I did. I did, because that was the easiest thing and quickest thing, because I was not a kid that wanted to go to school right away. So my mom always had to force me to do that. And then, so Cocoa Pops was always a good shout. Massive sweet tooth as well. But that obviously has changed over time, because my mother and my gran, I grew up with them, they're really health conscious. Like, especially weight and food related things. I think it was in that when I was I was born in 1993, guys. So, so I think there was a lot of a baby. But I think at that point as well, there was a lot of I think social media later on was introduced as well. So there was a lot of weight related things out there in magazines. You start looking more at the body image and things like that. So maybe that might be the main reason why
they were conscious.
Exactly, and because they were always conscious about it, obviously me growing up, I got influenced by that as well. So the Cocoa Pops got taken away from the diet, so we moved on, we grew up doing something else.
And so the rest of your childhood sounds quite different to mine anyway. I remember Cocoa Pops, then I discovered Weetos, and my mum... They're like a worse version of Cocoa Pops in the UK. My mum, bless her, was trying to get me not to eat those, but she also came into our nursery and she swapped our cookies and milk for a piece of fruit and fruit juice, which is like double the sugar load, but she thought she was doing a good thing.
Yeah.
So, and on top of that, every single childhood birthday party I remember at primary school was at MacDonald's, because you could go there, you could host 20 kids, get them a Happy Meal. There would be Ronald McDonald and everything. And my mum, I think she let me go to one. Fair enough. But so I had that from a really, really early age. Whereas it sounds like you were spending time with your grandparents.
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
exactly.
That wasn't necessarily a huge farm, but my grandparents used to live in the country, and back home, we had 3-month summer breaks, so June, July, and August. You're off for 3 months as a kid, and then my mom would drop me off to my grandparents, and I think I would spend not the whole 3 months, but a good majority of the time. So I'd be wandering around there. But saying about the McDonald's, I did have my own birthday, one of the McDonald's.
Did you?
Yes, but I didn't like anything apart from French fries there. I think it was just, I think I was 10 or something, so I wanted to be like a cool kid, invite the people over there.
McDonald's, because McDonald's was cool, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Culturally.
Yeah, exactly, and it was cool. But you had your special like a birthday room.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I didn't eat anything apart from French fries. I just didn't like the taste of a cheeseburger. Anyway, so I did spend a lot of time with my grandparents in the country, and obviously my grandparents, they were raised on the farm in the country as well, and they actually moved back into the house where my grand was raised, so it was quite interesting. Yeah. Anyway, but there's huge orchards there. We had cherry orchards, plum orchards, apple trees. There's just a lot happening there. You got potato, you grow your own potatoes and carrots and cauliflowers on all the salads, and anyway, there was just a lot happening there. And I spent the majority of the summers there. So, and you eat what you get pretty much.
And you eat seasonally.
Yeah, 100%. And we were lucky at that point as well that they did grow enough to store throughout the year as well, especially your root veggies that you were able to store throughout the year. And they would make a lot of, they did actually make a lot of like
preserves, like pickled?
Yeah, pickled or like jams as well. Obviously that's it's just half and half, sugar and top.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have all the access to like going and grabbing a chocolate bar on the way home from work.
No, so you would have
your hot chocolate from the cafe.
No, like hot chocolate is still like it bamboozles me. Like I came over here because hot chocolate for me is like Nesquik, and when you're a 10-year-old kid and you treat yourself, that's my understanding. And then I moved to New Zealand and I was working in a bar or restaurant or something, and like grown ups, they ordered hot chocolate, and for me like, but why do you
what is going on here?
Yeah, what's going on? Because for me, like honestly, like no one around me that I grew up had hot chocolate. We would either have a tea, and that would be with a slice of lemon rather than milk, or a coffee, and that's just a black coffee. So it was really interesting for me.
You just reminded me of the most hilarious thing, and I wonder if she'll be listening to this. And sorry, Will, if Alice tells you that I've said this. We were on holiday in Croatia, so kind of a country in relatively the middle of Europe, close to the Mediterranean. And there were 6 of us on a boat, so 3 couples or 4 couples, and we would all go in and order our coffees in the morning, so various different levels of black coffee. And my friend's husband didn't like coffee, so he would order a strawberry milkshake. Oh, you should have seen the waitstaff's faces at this, like, he's in the army, this like over 6 foot tall bloke.
Love that.
From the army ordering a milkshake because, when we went out for coffee, it was culturally acceptable to order something.
Yeah, fair enough.
Strawberry milkshake it was. I'm not sure which is worse, that or a hot chocolate.
Yeah, but like things like this.
So you've hit on a really good point. That it's suddenly really, really with cafe society and fast food, like McDonald's milkshake. I don't mean to bag McDonald's in this episode, but it's become really, really culturally acceptable for grown-ups. Not that it's okay for children, but for grown men and women to drink sugar and milk in a cup. Yeah, really interesting. And it's really weird.
And it's so interesting because I never grew up in an environment where like anyone was doing that. Yeah. And I'm not saying that only because I was born and raised in Latvia, like it's just my personal experience throughout that. And to be fair, I do think a big thing is that when I was growing up, like even now as well, it's not the most richest country. So there's not a easy access to a lot of these things. And so I think that has affected that as well. So the reason why my grandparents were growing all these things, because they live far in the countryside, to go to the town to purchase things from the supermarket, it was just
they can't walk 5 minutes to New World like we can.
No, and even then when they were like building up the farm and everything, like even then there's things that you could buy in a supermarket, and like it's still there wouldn't be a wide range of imported goods. That only like changed in early 90s. Like the stories that my grandparents told me when they were raising their kids, would have to stay in a line and like exchange a coupon for like 5 oranges because you couldn't just get it. Yeah. And I think that when they lived through that mentality, you just have to really think and figure out what's the best thing. So they grew a lot of stuff their own,
Yeah.
And because there's no other access for us to get the fast food or like any other like quick things, I never
You
really
just ate what you had.
exactly. And lucky for me, it was all good things.
Yeah.
So it's all fresh and home cooked.
It's really interesting that so they had less access to fast food. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but studying food security, I had to study Fiji. Yeah, very interesting. So on the flip side, Fiji grow a lot of stuff, but it's all exported because of economics.
Yeah.
All the rich countries buy it. Sorry to be really crude here. And they get our exports, which are lots of the food that we don't want, like tinned food, like Spam and Coca-Cola is like pretty much cheaper than water.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. So what access you've got to food through imports, exports, the wealth of your country.
Yeah, it changes. Yeah.
Has a massive impact. And it used to be, it's really interesting actually, the richer countries now with the standard American diet, or the SAD diet, or the standard Australian diet, we're actually getting fatter and less healthy. Our life expectancy is actually going down. So just before this, when we started discussing the topic, we got curious as to whether there was actually a difference in the kind of overweight and obesity rates of Latvia versus New Zealand. And I don't know if anyone can guess, but they've risen heaps everywhere over the last decade, 20, 30 years. But New Zealand, between men and women, are actually sitting at a rate of 35% of Kiwis, not overweight, but obese. So that's where it's really starting to impact their health. Versus Latvia is only at 25, so 10% difference.
Yeah.
And you were even surprised at that, weren't you?
Yeah. But then again, I haven't really been like properly living in Latvia for like last.
For a while.
Yeah, I've been in New Zealand for 4 years, and before that, I lived in Italy for 2. But I still was able to go back and forth. But I think I'm really far away.
Yeah.
I'm actually aware of what is happening back home, but I'm still quite.
So that brings me on to the conversation we were having the other day was our differing university experiences. So we were talking about going to university and how we binge drank lots and how I wasn't really into it, but you could actually get 2-for-1 cheeseburgers if you were a student at my university. So you could actually eat double the shit for free, basically. So versus you had a very different university experience.
Yeah, but again, I think it's my like the way I went through it. I did see a lot of other experiences unfolding in front of me as well. So I studied, like I'm originally from the capital, I'm from Riga, so there's a lot of opportunity and access. Yeah. Especially when I was in the uni years. And then I actually studied out of town. So that would usually, other people who would go there would be people who was growing up in the country.
More rural areas.
Yes.
So you saw all these other people getting really excited about the
exactly.
city.
So for me, I kind of went to the place that there was a lot more people, a lot more restaurants, a lot less and like all of that. But for them, they went from rural place to a bigger city in town. So they were super excited.
They were
McDonald's.
wild.
Exactly.
That's actually probably quite similar to me because I came from London and went to Southampton. If anyone's been there, it's not the most glamorous of places. Very good university, but not the most glamorous city. Heaps of fast food. They actually positioned like the MacDonald's really, really close to the university halls.
Interesting.
Yeah, sneaky, hey? I think it was also a drive-through, so getting commuters.
Yeah.
But I think there was a couple of McDonald's in town, Burger King, KFC, and perhaps my dearest mother putting me off as a kid, and I think Super Size Me had come out by that point. So I was pretty aware of it, but the amount of country kids who moved to Southampton and just loved it. Just loved it.
Yeah. Really so that's what, because I think I changed the environment And for me, it was really low key. There was not much, and I think as well.
You chilled out.
Yeah, exactly. There was not much going on, and I really, really enjoyed it. So, but again, another important thing I think for me personally, I actually struggled with a lot of like scarcity mindset, especially in regards to money, because I didn't grow up in the most richest of homes. Like we're average, but I think I've always money was always like a big thing for me. So I wouldn't like to be spending on something that I just can't justify. And I think as well, that added to my uni experience. Like I wouldn't want to be going out and spending money on that kind of things. Like I wouldn't want to go out to, although in saying that, it would be easier to justify a cheap meal, but still, because very often my mom or gran would, I don't know, buy groceries for a week for when I was living there, you know? And then
so that was very normal.
Yeah. But I think for me personally as well, because I was quite aware of these things, I wouldn't want to invest money either to like paying for alcohol or like other like things that are considered normal for like
students to do.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's why the experience was slightly different for me. But I do think the money aspect has affected it a lot. So in my choices.
That's interesting because I think I had the same thought process at university, that you do a weekly shop, that's what you spend. You have to spend the bare minimum. So I was buying, this all being said, our local supermarket was a Waitrose. Do you know what one of those is? From your time in the UK?
Yeah.
So it was quite hard to keep it cheap. But I was buying huge bags of brown rice, brown pasta, like the most basic, like chicken and things like that. So I think I was trying to do quite well. Yeah. But yeah, then I would go out and smash pints of vodka lemonade. So probably all balanced out.
And like funny because
you were talking about you and your friends that you like still like enjoyed wine and
stuff. Exactly.
Very different.
Very different.
Dinner party.
Exactly. So it was quite interesting, but as well because I would still go home over the weekend, and then I used to live with my gran at the time, and she's a fancy lady. She loves her salmon and avocado on toast every morning. And like just salmon in general, fresh cooked or whatever. That's her top choice. And because I was living with her as well, so she would always give me like a pack of salmon, like a fresh salmon when I was going back to uni. And I remember this one time. So my friend, she must have been coming home from coming back to the dorms after her dinner party with her like family as well, and they were bougie. They had caviar for her as a leftovers. So we were sitting in our dorm room. We had a fresh salmon. She brought caviar, and with this 21-year-old chicks, and like we did buy. I think it was a relatively cheap red wine. I think it was a Jacob's Creek or something. But at that point,
that was flashing.
Exactly. Especially back home, like we're not really exposed to the new country.
The
wines. Especially then. Then as sound like it was decades ago. It was like, I don't know, 5 years ago, 7 years ago. So it's not that bad. But yeah, so we did laugh about it, and there was also goat cheese in there in the middle, and fresh cranberries. The cranberries are a big thing back home. Like you get fresh cranberries, like the nice tartness.
Yeah, you can in the UK as well. I used to make my own cranberry sauce, make a healthy cranberry sauce, which you can't really do in New Zealand. It's like the sugary dried one from the packet.
I haven't had a fresh cranberry for years.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, so it's just that was a really funny experience. We were sitting, we're like, this just doesn't feel like your proper student
experience.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like it's the people that you surround yourself with as well, you know, like she had a really similar kind of outlook on food, and like she had a really, I wouldn't say a similar family stuff, but like their love for food as well. They love quality food, and so that's why she got leftover caviar to bring home over to dorms the other day, you know, like, or a goat cheese and things like that. It was just ridiculous. But yeah.
That sounds good though. I remember being sent with, this is a real embarrassing thing to admit, with like portions like lasagna and stuff. It was all quite heavy, but it was probably awesome by my parents. But and putting lasagna in tinfoil in the microwave.
Yeah. Tinfoil in the microwave?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a real learning experience. But yeah, it was also, if we got bulk meals, it was always real heavy. Yeah, rather than which is no bad thing.
No, like back at home as well, like it's meat and potatoes, like it's the go-to whenever you go for anything.
But we were also talking about like your grandma, she loves salmon or a slab of meat on the delicious
rye bread.
Rye bread, very different to the bread you buy in the supermarket over here.
Yeah, it's really dense, and then you raise on butter. At some point, there was the time when everyone was saying that animal fats in my butter is bad. So at that point, she was a pure advocate for butter. She's like, no, fuck that. No, you're gonna eat your butter. So I put a massive amount of butter, and then you put your deli meat on top, and there's a nice layer of fat in there as well. She raved on that as well. She said, this is what I ate as a kid before I went out on a farm, so this is what we're eating as well. So
I think you've hit on a really good point there. So not only nutritionally, when she ate toast, she would have a massive slab of protein and a good dollop of fat to blunt the blood glucose response. She probably had no idea she was doing that. It just tasted good.
Yeah, exactly.
And then she would go out on the farm. So she would eat quite a big substantial meal because it had to keep her full to lunch. There was no grabbing a pie from the dairy.
Oh yeah, no, because there's no access to that, especially where they grew up. There's no, you just can't do it. Yeah. But pastries back home, delicious. Yeah. Delicious, but no, I haven't seen anything like it.
Who was I talking to the other day? Gabby from the Kitchen Garden, who we did an amazing photo shoot for Gabby the other day. So I might get her on here at some stage. She's an absolute... Yeah, we should,
That would be amazing.
Yeah, she's a really amazing private chef and expert in South Island produce, I would say. But she mentioned casually that she only gets her croissants from the European bakery in Queenstown because they're the only ones who use proper butter, not canola oil.
Yeah.
Which made me so sad. So half the pastries in New Zealand, I quite often eat croissants when I'm in Europe because why not? Yeah. But they are completely different. Often the croissants here are just not.
And that's so interesting.
Gross.
And you know
that upset me.
It is really sad because you want a proper croissant. Yeah. But
with real animal fat rather than really, really hyper processed.
And you can actually taste the difference as well. So I think very often I wouldn't maybe think of it from a nutritional point of view. I just want if I'm paying $7, I want the real thing, the real stuff. But it's quite interesting as well because my dad lives in UK, so I would go and visit him over the summers when I was in my teenage years. And there was this one point where I was really fitness obsessed. I legit went to gym twice a day. For 5 days a week. My ass was huge.
So you've been on a bit of a kind of weightlifting.
Yeah. I don't know what triggered it. I don't remember why I started doing it. Maybe that was the time when Instagram started showing up, and there was a lot of your fitness model stuff going through. So I was like, I'm just gonna jump on that.
I'm just gonna do what they do.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that, and plus when I was living there, I didn't have a lot of friends, so that was my kind of way of escaping and dealing with whatever. But it was really interesting, and that was the first time I properly stayed there for 3 months straight. And I did notice the taste of the food, even the things that I would eat at home, what I consider healthy or good nutritional value. Just because you're saying about the croissants, right? And so because they use different ingredients.
I know.
And so I would notice that, and it was quite interesting because when I came back, my body looked different. The skin looked completely different.
Did your skin get worse?
Yes. And I've never really struggled with that kind of things, but it was quite interesting. And even on my body as well, I wasn't fat or whatever because I was working out, so the muscle definitely increased, but the layer on top of it just looked really weird. I've never really looked that way before, and I genuinely think it was because of the food quality. So you possibly gained a little bit of fat as well. 100%. I don't to be completely transparent. I thought that I was watching out my portion sizes and things like that. I was now looking back oh my goodness, girl, just can we please have that meal in two? But so but it was really, really interesting. That was the first thing that I noticed. We would be having the same food, but it just tasted different. You look at the packet as well, the ingredients are different as well. It's really, really interesting. And the one thing that stood out to me the most was how everything was a lot sweeter. Whatever you bought, even if I would buy the same, I love my sweets, I love my cookies, and I would go and that digestive cookies for some reason.
Oh, digestive biscuits. Yes. They were my downfall for years.
Oh, amazing. But
you know what? Why they're so addictive?
because sugar?
Because sugar? No, they're like scientifically engineered, right? So they're sweet, they're salty, they've got a crunch, and they're scientifically engineered to hit that bliss point, which
it's hitting it real bad.
Where you just want to go back for more and more and more and more. Similarly with Pringles, and I've heard about it, I can't remember where it was, that the salt and sugar ratios, salt and sugar to fat ratios are actually designed to mimic your mother's breast milk.
Yeah.
Which is why it's also hugely emotionally triggering to want to eat more.
Yeah.
Which, when you tell a bloke that he can't stop eating biscuits, they stop pretty fast.
Fair enough. Yeah, but it's really interesting. But that was one of the
I never knew that about you. I never knew. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And what you also reminded me of is when I spent a lot of time as a kid in Greece, and the food tastes different. It really does. Like, the olives are more bitter and sour. They're not these like crazy salty things you get in jars over here that they somehow call olives, and I don't even know how they like. It's very odd. The eggs are a different colour. Completely nutritionally different free range eggs with a lot more vitamin D because the chickens have actually been in the sunshine.
What is
God
that?
forbid. Yeah, which is why it's quite exciting. I know we've had an egg shortage.
There's a blue spot in there.
Really. Sorry if you're watching us on video, but we've been quite under the fog again still in Cromwell here. And the sky might be starting to clear, which is quite exciting.
Yeah.
Might have to have a walk and a wine after this. In the UK, you told me something really interesting about what your colleagues commented on you taking to work.
Yeah, so that was in my gym training era, so I really wanted to eat as kind of clean-ish as I could. So if I wanted to have a snack, like my instant thought, if I'm wanting a snack, it would be like a salty, like chips or something, crisps or something, right? So I wanted to swap that. So I would take my seeds, my little nuts, and like something like that from a packet. And I actually went to Marks and Spencer's because it was around the corner. So there was like a mix of things, and I would have that as a snack. And then my coworkers would be looking all weird to me and be like, "Why do you eat like a bird?" And they would just be so bamboozled, like so like mixed emotions, like why am I not like a normal person and have like a bag of crisps, like on top of your
bag
lunch.
of crisps is normal on top of a sandwich.
Exactly.
And sugary juice, get with the program.
Yeah, exactly. But you have your Coke Zero, right? So that's all fine. Oh god. But so that was quite interesting, and I actually felt bad.
So people actually commenting, actively and negatively commenting on what you were putting in your mouth.
Yeah, or the fact that I went to gym twice a day. It kind of worked out with my shifts because I was dropped out in town before my work started, like 10 o'clock, and then I would have a break before I was working in a restaurant, and the dinner service started, so I didn't want to go back home, so I stayed in town and I went to gym. So so I'll be like working out twice a day, and I wouldn't necessarily say it was like beast mode the entire time. I would just be like, well, I'd rather go for I don't know,
it's better than going home.
And the second workout would always be like either like I would go have a walk or like a stretching session or something like that. So it's not like I'm lifting weights.
And we talked. Krista and I talked about this the other day when she mentioned 75 hard and how weird people think you are if you move your body twice a day.
Yeah, like
in this day and age, it's like
ridiculous.
You're obsessed.
Yes. And the funniest thing for the 75 hard, because I've done it as well.
Yeah.
The funniest thing for me was every time I told them that you don't drink for 75 days, it honestly was easier for me to tell them that I'm doing it because I am pregnant, although I wasn't and I'm not, rather than explain them that I'm doing the 75.
This is in New Zealand, so
this is in New Zealand.
Easier for you to explain that you were pregnant.
Because that would have like stopped all the questions. Like, oh yeah, sweet, congratulations, let's move on. But that ended up being like a 30-minute like interrogation of why are you doing this? Like what, and then what, like exercising on top of that, and then reading your 10 pages and like drinking all the water. Like it was just like honestly, at some point I was like, there's no point of me telling what's this challenge and like what's going on. Like it was easier to tell me that I'm pregnant to not have questions.
Yeah. Well, you are in the minority, Anda, because you're obviously stunningly beautiful, not that matters, but also very healthy. And as we just established, 35% of Kiwis now obese, and I think over 60% are technically overweight. I don't really believe in BMI or anything like that, but I see it. I see it, and even my friends. I have to get a couple of them on here actually, who have just put on 5 to 10 kilos, and they're really uncomfortable. It's overweight for them, and they're not loving life, and they're not that confident in their body. But yeah, even some pretty well kind of educated people are missing some crucial aspects.
It's really interesting what you're saying, missing the crucial aspects. I have to be like truly transparent.
Yes.
Like up until now, I want to say last month ago or something, I've always been convinced that I'm living a healthy, happy life. Like I've been raised that way. I don't really necessarily struggle with it. But because you talk about like protein intake a lot, and I've finally started noticing, and I think I've been just really lucky in the way that I've been living my life because I haven't paid attention to it at all. And it made me really realize I do not eat enough of protein. And sometimes I think I am still in the shape that I am now because I do exercise a lot, and it kind of balances out. I wouldn't say I exercise a lot. I just, my everyday life would always...
You move a lot.
Yeah.
Like you're definitely not exercising sets.
Yeah.
But yeah, you walk a lot.
I do walk a lot, like at least like an hour a day or something. So maybe that's why I haven't really paid too much attention to it, but it has been quite interesting to like look at it from a distance. I'm like, is it really, am I eating enough of protein, or is it just carbs on a plate on top of more sprinkled carbs? It's been really eye-opening, I think.
I'm glad. Have you noticed a difference?
In energy, and you know it's interesting. Yeah, definitely, especially in the mornings because now I eat a lot more eggs, and I've always had my toast, an avocado, and then some sort of a topping. But when I say toast, it's just a toasted slice of bread. So I eat ciabatta bread, so there's the size of. So it's not like a big but I don't crave bread anymore, which is quite interesting. I don't want.
Interesting. So Paula, who had on a couple of weeks ago. Which I can't wait to get her back on because I took her through a nutrition consult, and she's currently doing the 3-week body transformation program, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying that she's nearly 2 kilos down in about 10 days.
Ooh, that's good.
Well, this is all her comments this morning. I'm sure she'll have lots more to say on it because it was never meant to be about the scales, so that just happened by accident.
Yeah.
But, her other comment was, energy levels really good, and don't miss my bagel in the morning. Yeah, it's when you're eating enough protein, you don't miss what you think you're going to. Yeah,
because I love my bread. I do really believe, and that's another thing that I've noticed whenever I'm in Italy. Bread is amazing, so that's obviously out of it. But when I came here, like I really noticed the quality of it, and it's so interesting. Anyway,
I eat bread in Italy. I don't eat bread here.
Yeah,
it's very different.
It is really different. Yeah, so that's really, But I hear what you're saying about not missing it when you eat enough.
Yeah, this is great. All my friends telling me everything they've changed. This is good feedback. So I'm trying to think what else we wanted to cover off. We talked about seasonal eating.
Yes, that's really common back home. Back home, we have a really similar seasons as in Central Otago. So
that's why I thought it was really good to talk about. Yeah,
we have our winters, we have our summers and springs. There's certain produce that we cannot grow there because it gets a bit too cold over the winter, so it doesn't work that way. But we're really seasonal eaters. So we have our fresh fruit and berries and veggies over the summer, and like we have these amazing farmers markets that are just like permanently there. Sometimes they do import goods from Poland anyway, but it's still, a lot of it is local produce, and it's just there 7 days a week. Yeah, easy access. Sometimes you would have your night markets, and it's just amazing. All the fresh raspberries and blueberries and all the so not even obviously the berries and fruits, but you have there's a meat selection and fish selection. Like, it was just a lot, and it's just so good.
You won't go out to the pub to drink like bottles and bottles of prosecco after a pub dinner? No, just me.
No. Yeah.
Oh dear. So, do you have anything else you'd like to share? Or we usually do a takeaway dessert for the audience.
Yeah. Do you want me to give a takeaway message?
Yeah, I'd love a takeaway message.
I think what I've learned, like I know that I'm really lucky the way I grew up, and in terms of the exposure of quality foods and fresh foods and things like that. So I'm really lucky in regards to that. But I feel that also has taught me to listen to my body and what I want to eat and what I don't want to eat, and also the mindset also comes into that as well. So I know if I'm not feeling my best, I will start craving something snacky and things
so
like
if
that.
You're tired, stressed,
anxious,
anxious.
And what I've noticed as well, there will be times when I am feeling anxious, I would reach for something sweet just because I think that would soothe me. But now I'm in this
the dopamine trigger
exactly
to make yourself feel happy.
Yeah, but like if you are self-aware enough and you listen to yourself, you know, like this is your body doesn't want it. Like it's not hungry. It doesn't. Sometimes I feel I have the sugar craving and I will have a chocolate and I know like I have no guilt for that whatsoever. But I think like the biggest thing for me, I've learned to listen to my body because I know that you know what's the best for you. You always know. And if you have the little guilt when you're standing in the line in a coffee shop and you're eyeing that muffin, it's probably because you already know that there is a better option out there. You don't need to leave the cafe. You can get something else instead. But you know what I mean? And I do know, and I really truly believe and trust that you have all the answers in you. You just have to stop for a second to actually listen to yourself and trust that you know what's the best thing for you. And sometimes it can be a bite of chocolate, you know, or your wine is a great excellent thing. Never go wrong with that. But you know what I mean. Like sometimes all these like guilty pleasures, there's nothing wrong with that as well. Like I don't think it is.
No, I don't think it is. I think, and you've something that Paula taught me, and we talked about it in the first podcast, but to do with habits. Every single habit, or every single choice you make every day can either move you closer to or further away from where you want to be.
Big picture vision is such an important thing. Like just because you have a one bad meal doesn't make you an unhealthy person, or vice versa. If you have a one salad bowl, it doesn't make you. Your body is still probably a working temple. You still have to work towards it a little bit more. But yeah. And I think the big picture vision is really definitely important. And I really don't believe in looking at one specific thing. Like if you look at like animal fats, like they're bad, and then everything else involves, you know. Like there's no point of looking and extracting one thing out of context. Everything needs to be looked at as one big general thing in regards to food and like in life in general. I find like
holistically,
right? Yeah, exactly.
So your grandparents working on a farm probably eat a hell of a lot more bread. They didn't have access to fast food,
but they moved so much that it doesn't
so
matter
much. It's irrelevant.
Exactly, and
whereas we're in a very different world over here. And what I find really interesting is your observations of Kiwis and their struggles that you find quite comical in a kind way.
It really sometimes I'm like, oh, this is just so interesting. How like for me, like as well, I would have my scone occasionally, and sometimes a bit more than occasionally. But I know that I will go for my daily walk, or like I will do something else, and I don't do it to punish me, you know. Like it's just it's my daily life.
You're exercising for your mental health and your normality.
Yeah, and
not to burn off the scone.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to be guilty, but like you need to outweigh these things. Like you win some, you lose some, but like and still look at the big picture.
I think that was an amazing takeaway, and I think what I really love is you're not a bad or unhealthy person for eating one piece of chocolate, and you are not a health god or goddess by eating one salad. It's what you do consistently, again and again.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but this old health thing can be quite boring.
Right? Exactly.
Simple and boring in the nicest possible way. But when you're doing what you love and you're eating food you love, it doesn't feel boring. It's just not the most TikTokable message.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's no like quick solution and like all these like
5-minute abs.
No, not really. No, it's just gonna consistently eat the food that you love, and then you know where it comes from usually. So
that's always a good thing to know. just one final thought, so we don't keep people too long, but based on everything you've told me, I think home cooking, knowing where your food comes from, is another takeaway. So
huge.
Yeah, I know the best we probably have here is supermarkets or markets, or I know there are kind of abattoirs where you can order your meat from, or a local butcher. We're lucky we've got orchards and things around here. Just being slightly aware of where your food comes from.
I think we're so lucky, especially here in Central Otago. Like there's so much access to fresh produce, and I guess sometimes just not being lazy. But you know what I mean. Like obviously, I would still also go out for takeaway meals and things like that because it's just nice and easy and quick. But I feel like having that fresh produce and actually utilizing the fact that it's fresh and you can make something out of it. And that's another thing back home as well. I was not exposed to takeaway culture. It's just, and as well the money thing,
fast.
Yeah, and the money thing also went into that because we didn't necessarily have a load of money to spare on going out. We didn't, so we cooked a lot. So it's a normality as well. But I do feel like it's just makes a huge difference.
You make a very good point though, because now people can buy the produce from the supermarket, which I know the cost of food is going up, but the same people who complain about the cost of food, I have noticed, also are more than happy to order Uber Eats as soon as they get to the city. We don't have Uber Eats here for anyone who hasn't been to Cromwell, or get a takeaway, or order pizza or chips at the pub on a Friday.
And like when you look at the bill that arrives, that could have been a 1 week's worth of grocery bill, most likely.
I love this tangent we've gone off on.
Yeah, it's a never-ending story. This is really common for Eastern Europeans. Whenever we leave the party, we say goodbyes for like an hour, and we and then it's like
I enjoy that.
You never leave.
Yeah.
But I feel like at some point we need to finish because we're going to go on a tangent.
And I'll tell you what, we will finish this episode here. So everyone, if you enjoyed it, if you've got any questions for Anda or myself, please do feel free to get in touch. And please do leave us a review and subscribe. And I'll see you back here soon.